Well, hello, everyone. How are you doing out there in the world? Welcome to our Subconscious Speaks. My name is Don Robert, my partner,
I'm Tina Orlando.
Tina Orlando, and Dawn. We are.
Look at that.
Yeah. Um, but on a serious note, we are award-winning, top of our class, certified clinical hypnotherapist from our beloved HMI, Hypnosis Motivation Institute, located here in Tarzana, California. You can look them up online, hmi.edu. Plug, plug, plug. We love them so much. This channel, and if by chance this is the first time you're watching us, this is all about talking about the conscious and the subconscious with everything in between. We welcome your comments, suggestions, requests for additional topics, and we'll drop episodes weekly and encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, and even share, right? Our whole intent here is to be of service and help people. So if you know of somebody that might benefit from this episode or the whole channel, feel free to share. So today we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about this thing called hypnosis. Does it work? I mean, Tina, does it work?
I know it works. I've seen it work. I've seen it live. Have you seen it live?
Live and in person, even.
Live and in person, it works. It's amazing.
Yeah.
There are so many success stories. There's whether it's medical or, um, you know, we said it before. It's used for so many different things. It works. I think everybody should do it. I think it's fabulous. I think it'll make your life better.
Yeah. There's this idea of being underutilized. It is such a
Mm.
powerful solution that I'd like to think that we're definitely making progress. Certainly, in the 50, I think 58 years that HMI has been around, that there's significant progress, visualization and exposure to the general public, thanks to the superhighway called www dot, right?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
and by no means is HMI, corner the market on hypnosis. They just have they're the first accredited college of hypnotherapy. Pretty proud of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
wonderful education, so many valuable learnings and modalities that we're exposed to, and that really can help anyone. I mean, who hasn't heard of hypnobirthing, right? I mean, it's a thing.
It is a thing. I mean, whether it's like I said, medical, there's so many uses for it. It's not just stress or weight loss or smoking. It's, it could be autoimmune, it could be grinding teeth, you know, um, I don't know, pick something. We'll see if we can do it.
Yeah, I
Addiction.
love that.
Addiction's huge. Pick something. We'll see if we can do it. I'm up for the challenge always.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's so many success stories and so many studies actually done and used. Whether it's here in the United States or abroad, Australia, Denmark, like there's so many places, schools that use hypnosis, that study hypnosis and the effects of hypnosis. It's fascinating. So I think it's pretty wonderful. I think it has a lot of success.
What's even cooler is at our, I know we seem to be plugging HMI a lot, but there is a powerful section in one of our modules that links to research articles, like evidential proof from like major university, Harvard, like top-notch
Hmm.
universities using hypnosis as an additional tool, right? Nobody's saying
Hmm.
that you replace medicine with hypnosis, but wow, what a wonderful bolt-on it is, right?
Hmm.
The success rate triples
Hmm.
using hypnosis and hypnotic techniques to help a
Hmm.
patient prepare for surgery or dental procedures, or so
Needles.
many needles.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you have somebody that has, cancer or, I mean, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Transplants, cancer, addiction.
We're really
There
talking
are
about the whole
so
list of
many.
fears and phobias, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's a pretty
there are
long
things.
list. Yeah.
Absolutely. It is a very long list. I mean, there's over 150 of them on there on this list. I know that. I know that there's quite a few articles, housed there, but you can look them up on Google Scholar and see how many times hypnosis is used and how much it is studied in, not just here, but it's a fabulous thing. It'll help. And I think that's what we're here for, right?
That is it. Yeah. So we seem to, in the last two episodes, I think this term known association keeps coming up. And I feel like we should kind of start there with, I know everybody's kind of waiting, like, oh, okay, let's give me the goods. Like how does it work? Why does it work? Like what makes a good hypnotherapist versus a coach or whatever? Like, so I think I'd like to start with just a general understanding for our listening audience of what the heck is this idea of a known association. Can we start there?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Lay it on
Absolutely.
us, Tina. What's a known association?
Oh, I'm going to do the known
Yeah,
association.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Oh,
there's
don't worry,
known
I'll
patterns,
chime
right?
in.
I'm sure you will. I mean, the known patterns. You can unmute. You hit the button. Known association, known patterns, things that we have learned in a literal state when we were much younger, that are housed, in that subconscious area of our mind. That might be whether you like dogs. It might be whether you like broccoli. Maybe it's, you don't like cats. Depends on what your experience was that created that known association or pattern. Either one works, interchangeable. What do you think, Don?
So I'm trying to speak in this in a way that wouldn't typically be the way I speak of it. And what came to me was something I liked that you said, patterns, right? So I'm all about like the loops and patterns that we get stuck in is
Mm-hmm.
because they are concrete known associations that run the show. Like 90% of what we do is out of our subconscious. Can we agree on that? I mean,
Absolutely.
I know there's another gentleman out there that has a DR in front of their name, Dr. Joe Dispenza, probably the most
Mm-hmm.
infamous graduate from HMI. He says
Mm-hmm.
95% is ran by the subconscious. And I
Split the
what I
difference.
wrote down that was a new thought was it's a collection of
Mm-hmm.
experiences that live in the subconscious so that when something triggers those memories, those known associations that we've collected through the years, that's what drives our reaction, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what
Absolutely.
I think. I think really the subconscious is the autoresponder to life.
Well, it's the one definitely in charge, right? Because that's where it's all coming from. I mean, the rest of that, whether it's the 5% that's left over or the 10%, whichever one, it doesn't matter. I think it's somewhere in the middle there. But that conscious awake life that we have is definitely not what's running the show. Um, it's just not.
Here's the other thing that I thought of just now, that this whole running of the show, it can come across as a little hopeless, right? Like, okay, so I've got these negative loops and patterns that I've collected over the years. Like, what the hell do I do to change them? Right?
Right. I mean, we all kind of have a negative bias to survive. But the idea, I mean, we're born somewhat in a negative bias. We have to survive. But the idea is definitely to change those patterns. The only way we're going to change those subconscious patterns is in a hypnotic state. You cannot do it in a conscious state. There's not enough space there. There's only 5 or 10% there that's working. We don't have the ability to do that. So with being in that hypnotic state is definitely the way we can absolutely change those patterns, those known associations, those negatives to positives. You know, I think.
Here's the other thing that came to mind is that the word known, right? So known means they're learned. So if I've
Hmm.
learned something that represents as a negative, right? So positive, negative, good, bad, whatever you want, however you want to classify them. But if you've got something that's learned, it can be either relearned or replaced and made anew.
Absolutely. You replace old things all the time. You can put in, anchors or triggers or whatever you need to unlearn the old pattern. Because
Mm,
that's really what you're doing, is wanting to
yeah,
unlearn that old pattern and learn something new. So if you can learn it, you can unlearn it, right?
that's my experience and belief.
It's
Yeah,
mine too.
absolutely. Yeah.
So yes, you can teach an old dog new tricks. Absolutely.
Absolutely. This is not a sentence that you've got these negative known associations, right? Because they're learned, they can be changed. You can learn
Absolutely. Hope.
anew. Yeah.
Yep. Hope.
Hope.
Absolutely.
There it is.
Hope.
There it
Yes.
is. All right.
Yes.
What else are we talking about today?
Well, people always want to say, well, I meditate. I I don't know about you, but I run across these people a lot, and they're,
Hey,
oh, but I
I'm these
meditate.
people. I
Oh,
meditate
you do?
every day, every morning, as soon as I
So
wake
what's the
up.
difference then? Which is what I always hear. Like, and I'm not saying I
Sure.
don't meditate. I'm saying I run across these people. I go, well, I meditate. There's no difference. Um, might be. It might be. Do you feel a difference? Like, because I know that that there is differences between meditation and hypnosis. And I'm going to read a quote here so that way I can read it correctly. I don't want to misquote anything. But there is a difference between meditation and hypnosis, right? Um, so breath awareness, which is meditation, visualization, mantra, to quiet and center the mind. That is typically meditation, roughly, correct?
I think
What do you
that's a
think,
good
Doc?
depiction of what it is. Yes.
Okay. So then the opposite or versus hypnotherapy, which would be it's guided by a trained practitioner, right? Using techniques such as the progressive relaxation and guided imagery, which we both know works very well. And then, of course, we're going to provide positive suggestions aimed at achieving your best self. I think that's the difference. So one is guided, truly guided with the positive suggestions and more guided imagery versus a meditation where it's more just a mindful, centered state. I think that's probably the best description of the two. What do you think, Don?
I like it.
You like it? Okay.
You know me, I like to tell stories from my personal experience and I early days when I was still kind of finding my way yeah, working with pro bono clients and not 100% comfortable like, explaining everything, I would try to build a bridge for somebody that like and we talk about meditating, right? So you've meditated before. Everybody's at least tried it once, right? Whether you're a daily meditator or not. And it's kind of like that, but that, I'm building that bridge over because there's that I wasn't comfortable enough in talking about how to dispel the fears and concerns about this word hypnosis, right?
Mm-hmm,
So that's different today. It is definitely not meditation.
mm-hmm,
It's not even a guided, because I've done guided meditations. They're wonderful.
mm-hmm,
Here's what I think the absolute difference is in the cognitive portion of our sessions. I am looking for the thing, the words that you're saying to then
mm-hmm,
use as those you mentioned positive suggestions, right? Because if it's
mm-hmm.
coming from you, it's already inside of you. And then because you're in that deep state of relaxed focus called hypnosis, you're going to take on those new positive attributes as your new known associations. Imagine that.
Imagine, visualize, go for it.
Yeah. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think Well, I think that, you know, I think meditation is excellent. Should be, at least, I don't know, somebody had said, if you can only sit still for, 3 minutes, then sit still for 3 more minutes. I had to really think about that one. Like, if you can only sit still for 3 minutes, then sit still for 3 minutes more. Can't do it. I just want you to know.
Yeah, I've studied meditative techniques. I did transcendental meditation. Like I
Hmm.
have a mantra that I use. Like
Hmm.
I've done 20 minutes, half an hour. I tend to stick to like 5 or 10 minutes now. It's just a check in with my mind and body together as one. Before I start my day, I don't start my day on my phone. Believe it or not, uh, it's tough. Um, but there's a distinct difference there. You're achieving almost the same kind of deep relaxed state, with the exception of there's no positive suggestions for change that are taking place. That's what I think is probably the biggest delineation between the two, because someone could say, the breathing techniques we use are very similar to, the box breathing is what, or they use this, the
Holotropic.
4-8-8. Like there's all sorts of breathing techniques that are used in meditation to achieve, state, or to achieve flow, or,
Right.
um, what do you think is the major difference, speaking as a clinical hypnotherapist?
I think it's the positive suggestions.
Yeah.
I think, I really think it's that information. Because look, we have the answers, right? We have all the answers to our questions. They're there. We know intuitively. Um, we know what we're supposed to do, and it's just sometimes we can't get out of our own way to do it, or we can't see it clearly. But I think we have the answers, and in the cognitive portion of the session, I think that's why it's so important, is because we generally will say what we need without saying it. So the job of the hypnotherapist would be to listen and to actually hear what that is and then feed it back to us,
Mhm.
um, in that state. So I think that's why the positive suggestions are the difference
We
between.
agree. Look at that.
Of course, of course, it's, that's a real thing. Like, we know what we need to do, whether we want to admit it or not. Um, you know,
That so
intuitively.
well, I love that word, and I want to talk about
Mhm.
intuition, but I want to make a point about kind of self-help books. And I mean, I have a bookshelf full of them. I've read many of them, not all of them. Like I'm a collector of
Endlessly
books,
searching,
right?
right?
Looking for the answers to
The
like
endless,
why I can't change myself.
the endless learning.
Yeah.
That's what I used to say. It's the endless learning of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I found hypnotherapy, I found it online,
Mm-hmm. Same,
and
same.
I watched a recording of a hypnotherapist from England, and I
Mm-hmm.
was so emotionally stirred and moved. I was absolutely hypnotized and was blown away by it. And the next thing I knew, I was talking to HMI about becoming a student, because I had been looking for, being a coach, being a mentor, being a sponsor in a 12-step program. That I've learned so much about how to help people, but there's just a different level when you're working with someone's subconscious and these known associations. They're a game changer, right? To be able to change, for someone to be able to change the way they actually think and believe, is mind blowing. And I see it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, how much did you change from, start to finish? I mean, I know we've had this conversation where there's always that moment where you go, holy crap, this really works.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm not the only one. There's
No.
been so many people, where you go through this now. Yes, we were going to school for it, but we were still having the experiences. We still spent time in hypnosis. Um, how many times? Like we all had the moment, and how many times after that did you think, wow, this really works? Like they're endless, like every time.
You just made me think of something. So, Tina and I were lucky enough to start school in person before the pandemic hit. And the school does these things called practicums where you literally practice what you've just been taught in a class. And I still remember um, working with somebody for the first time, putting them into a hypnotic state. And the person said to me afterwards, she goes, I really was. And I was blown away by like just talking to them. And, it's just what a wonderful memory that is. Like that, it worked.
It worked. It works.
It works.
Who knew?
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's absolutely a
So you
thing.
brought up intuition. Can we move off of meditation? Or are we good? Do you want any closing
Yeah.
comments on meditation? All right.
No.
So one of our listeners, our loyal first 10, Katia,
Yeah.
asked,
Top 10.
she said, hey, talk about the use of intuition in hypnotherapy. What do you think
Oh,
about
okay.
that? Let's go there.
Well, I'm definitely down with the woohoo. Like I I mean,
The woo.
we
Down
all
with the
have
woo.
down with the woo. Um, so I mean, we all have intuition, we all have gut feelings, we all know
Mhm.
things, we've all had that split second moment where we're like, no, we shouldn't do that, and then thank God something doesn't, happen or whatever. Um, I don't know if the question is, do we use intuition during hypnosis, or is it that it provokes your intuition even more? Either way, I think the answer safely might be yes, to both of them. Because I can't speak for you, but for me, sometimes there's that nagging feeling inside where you're going through and you're going to do something, and then you make a left turn and say something during the session out of nowhere, and that just opens up to something else that this person really was trying to convey.
Right.
So I don't know if you want to consider that intuition, and if that's what the question is, then yes, we use our intuition too. um as for the intuition being increased if you use hypnosis, I would say yes. What, I mean, you are using all of your wonderful attributes, right? Mind, body, awareness, connection. Yes, no. What do you think, Don?
I'm thinking a couple of things here. I love the use of intuition in my life. I count on it. And I
Mm-hmm.
have a method that I use, right? I will pray and meditate and ask for direction and typically will not take action until that's clear to me and I've made major life decisions like this over the years, moving from states to states and places and jobs and careers. And um, so the question of the intuition in hypnotherapy, I trust and count on and call
Mm-hmm.
forward before every session my intuition to be inspired, my thinking, decisions, and intuitions to best serve the person that I'm going to work with so that I'm not sitting over here going, okay, I have to ask my next question. Hang on, are you done answering that? Okay, here's my next question. Like I'm flowing with the person in a very
Absolutely.
intuitive fashion. Um, and I think the question is about hypnotherapy, not hypnosis, right? But I know you are, I know I am. We talk about how we work in session without getting into any details, and it's very intuitive. Yes, there's a framework for the sessions
Mm-hmm.
always, but it's really about the person, the energy, I mean, Cat Lowe, let's plug Cat Lowe for a second, the intuitive,
Right?
right? We're gonna get Cat on this podcast. She's amazing. Woo. But yeah, that was another moment, right? When I took that
That'll
class
change your
with
life.
Kat. It did. It absolutely
Yeah.
did. It really, because it tapped into what was already there. And I feel like, ooh, dotted line back to the subconscious and these known associations, right? If you can tap into the truth that truth might not be what is known. It just might be what you picked up along the way and it became your truth.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
using the power of hypnosis, being able to change and shift and alter and reframe those notions, those known associations, right? It's pretty powerful. Yeah. So I count on my intuition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we could sit here and go back and forth about how many times your intuition, yours, mine, everybody's, has really changed your life in a split second without you even realizing in the moment that that's what you were doing. Um, but I think that intuitively, whenever you are working in service of people and trying to help, you are using parts of your intuition. Um, you can't not do it. It has to be with, heart, soul,
I would say
gut.
I would agree. There's a degree of woo, right? If you're going to use the woo word, right? But um, there's a habitual thing that happens when you start to, you said it earlier, right? Trust your gut.
Mm,
That's your
mhm.
intuition.
Absolutely.
In the dating world, it would be listening to the red flags that go off. But you're a little selfish, and you're like, oh, but they're so cute, and I just love their smile, and this or whatever. Like it's like you ignore the truth that's inside of
Mm.
you because of maybe another negative known association you have to the dating world and how you pick partners, and you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're not listening to your gut. I mean, how many people really go along saying, I should have listened to myself?
shoulda,
You
coulda,
know, it,
woulda.
it takes a long time to trust yourself. You got to get in there and you got to do the work. And, I definitely think that hypnosis can help. If that's, hypnotherapy itself can help. If you're looking to truly trust yourself and use your intuition and you're really, really follow your gut, whether you're dating or jobs or moving, I think to be really clear, you've got to kind of get in there and know what's going on. And hypnosis really, it really kind of paves the way for that.
Yeah. Getting to know yourself and the truth of it is, I think, first step, right? You've got to acknowledge where you are before you start traveling to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Because how do you know where you're
But
going if you don't know where you are? I
well,
know that
you may
sounds
not
kind
even
of
know where you
silly,
are,
but
though. That's
huh?
crazier. Some of
What?
us don't even know where we are. Like we're not there. Um, being really current, and in the moment, current in the moment. A lot of people aren't living in the moment. They're not.
Yeah.
They're too wrapped up in those known associations, those known patterns. How many times has somebody heard something and you're standing right next to them? You didn't hear it that way. They heard it that way because of that pattern. They're not living in the moment today. They're not using their gut. Um, Not to mention, that's where all your serotonin is housed, anyways, at least 90% of it. More fun facts from Tina
Hmm.
is in your gut. But anyways, you got to stay in the moment, got to be present, follow your gut, got to do those things, right?
Yeah, it's another reason why therapy in general is healthy. Because if you don't have a vehicle to get to know yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you haven't bought the right book and read it and applied it yet, because
Right.
there's wonderful educational material out there that can be applied to self. It's
Absolutely.
it's been my experience that it's easier when you're on the path with someone, and in the form of a therapist, a sponsor, or whatever, right? Like getting to know yourself by yourself can be a challenge. Um,
But yeah, yeah, there's a lot to be said about that one.
yeah,
Yeah, I
well,
mean,
let's say it.
well, I mean, that's like, what do they say? What is it? A doctor. If you're your patient's doctor, then you have a doctor that's a fool. I murdered that one. Sorry.
I think it's lawyer. At least I've heard it as if you've hired yourself as your lawyer, you've got an idiot for a client.
See, and I've heard it as a doctor.
Doctor, lawyer. Yeah, sure. Sorry,
So
doctors and
I
lawyers, if you're
sure.
listening.
Well, yeah, I murdered it. I'm sorry. But yeah, the the work is never easy when it's on your own. It has to start somewhere. But sooner or later, you're going to need somebody to hold up the mirror for you. Somebody's going to have to guide you through, right?
Excellent point. Holding up the
Yeah,
mirror. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It makes me want to ask you a question about my experience. I want to see if you have a similar one. And I think we've talked about this. Like, well, we talked about last episode, like attracting clients that are a little bit more direct or indirect, based on our own personal indirectionness or directness. And I'm just wondering, like, um, do you feel like you tend to come from a place where you're trying to gather my thoughts here really quick because I lost it for a second.
It's okay. We all do that. See how
Yeah,
human we all are.
I
Look,
I
we're not
lost it.
scripted.
I
This is the real
lost it.
deal here, people.
It's gone.
Like, it's okay. It'll come back. Watch this. It'll come back. So that's how not scripted we are, and that's so wonderful because then people really know that not only are we not scripted, we're telling the truth and we're
Yeah.
authentic. That's it.
No
We're
teleprompter
authentic
over
selves.
here.
There's no teleprompter. It's all good. I mean, otherwise it's just one monologue after another, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, so are there benefits? Benefits. I know
Yeah.
the benefits. How many times have you walked around like, wow, you know, having been through, the schooling and, spending 8 hours a day or 5 hours a day in hypnosis because we had some long class that we had to go through in and out, in and out, in and out. And you walk out of there and you're like, God, I just want to feel this way all the time. And you're just floating around. And I know from experience that my own clients, they feel fabulous when they leave or whatever. They feel good. How many times have you think that you walk around going, I need to go back and do more. I need to go and sit through some type of hypnosis that somebody else is doing just because you actually enjoy it. What do you think?
Absolutely. It's why even after someone tends to accomplish that what they have come to me for, they'll still come back.
Absolutely.
Tune up,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, right? But the effect produced by this experience is life-changing.
Mhm.
I know that we both had so many personal and kind of client success stories. I had someone tell me last week, after 3 sessions, she said, heavy anxiety, panic attack lady. Um, I I knew, I thought it was going to work. I didn't think it was going to work this good. She went a week without having any panic attacks,
It's fabulous.
which is, I mean, forget about it. That's a life-changing benefit. The quality of life
Uh-huh.
to not walk
Yeah.
around in that heavy, overwhelmed, anxious feeling is
Uh-huh.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's a wonderful feeling to have. That's, to not have anxiety is a great thing because there's not too many people that don't. The number one thing is anxiety.
Mm,
And we could sit here all day and trade the anxiety story.
right.
But to not have panic attacks, that's huge. I mean, hats off to you.
Feels
Yeah.
pretty good to hear that,
Yeah,
to be a facilitator of someone's healing is
absolutely.
really, it's life path stuff, higher purpose stuff.
Yes. Absolutely. When you change somebody's life or assist in changing someone's life, because they're doing the work too. Um,
90/10, absolutely.
Yes, they are. They are doing the work. But you're part of it, right? You're part of that team. Um, it's amazing when they'll send you the text message or the phone call or the email that says, "Wow, I didn't think I was going to make it through that." Um, it was no problem at all. I you know, many clients, and they go from anxiety, this, to smoking, to weight loss, to I just don't want to scream at my husband anymore, or I actually want to like my husband because I'm just angry about everything at work, or I mean, you can just pick the reason why they come in. Um, and when they, send you the thank you note, I think that's the best part, really,
Yeah.
is that it's just that moment. You're like, oh, nice. I'm glad their day's better now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
gratifying
Definitely.
work.
Yeah. I mean, yes, besides the fact that there's, all the evidence and studies and research and all those things, those are all great research articles, blah, blah, blah. But when you get the thank you, that's the best.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, but some of it's about connection, I think. I mean, have you ever ran across somebody who was just like, it's not a good vibe. Let me refer them out a little bit, just because there's just a disconnect. Yeah,
It's
no, I
only
do.
happened a couple times where
Yeah,
I just, oh, I used my intuitive voice, and
intuition.
it was clear to me. And believe it or not, I actually did a first session, and the next time we talked, I just told him, like, I just don't think that we're a good fit. I can refer you out. I know other wonderfully qualified individuals that you can work with, but I just don't think that you and I are a good fit. And it was so hard to say that because my true desire is to help everyone. Um,
Hmm.
but you got to honor that voice. The voice spoke up for a reason.
Absolutely. The reason why I said something was because I've actually had that thought when I get the first phone call. I'm like,
Mm,
ooh, I don't think so. This isn't gonna work. Like, you got to know yourself. You got to know your scope. You got to know your strengths, your weaknesses,
right.
and using your intuition and just listening to your gut, truly listening to your intuition, your gut, whether it's in your life, in your job, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. And when you do that, you're on your own path,
Indeed.
the righteous one. Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah. It doesn't happen often, because there is such a
No.
wide variety of topics that we've been trained to help people with.
Hmm.
So, but sometimes, that voice speaks up and it says, they might be better served with someone else. And
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I didn't, the two times that I've stopped the conversation was literally just a conversation about hypnosis. It didn't even get that far. I just stopped. I'm
oh,
like,
wow.
I'm not gonna, there was just too much. I'm not here to prove it to you. I'm not here to prove it. You want my help? It's here, right? Like, hands are open. I'm here of service. I'm not gonna fence with you about it. Like,
Right.
yeah. So no,
We're not in the convincing business. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not here to convince you. Like, if you want my help, I'm so open to helping. That's great, but I'm not going to try and convince you,
Yeah.
because that's not what we do. That would make it a trick.
If I
I'm
may.
not in. Yes,
So
you're
we
so
we
funny.
we danced around a topic, earlier. We talked about known associations, and that known associations, that what we've been taught as part of a bigger theory called the theory of mind, and that we talked about I made a joke about the 90-10, right? And you think you
Mhm.
may have said something as well. And it's like the 10% of your conscious mind versus the 90% of your subconscious mind, your 10% matters. There has to be desire. There has to be hope. There has to be your 10% of your conscious mind saying, I want help and I'm
Mhm.
going to do this thing called
Right.
hypnotherapy. right?
Absolutely.
We're going to handle the bulk of the work, 90%, man. Gladly,
You got
happily.
this. We don't have to fence about it though.
Yeah. No,
That's what I was trying to say. So
yeah. No, I know. I wanted to share about that. I'm
yeah,
passionate about that 10%, that um
you you got to do the work too. But
absolutely.
I'll take care of it. Just do the
Yeah.
work.
There's some magic that happens, but there's no magic wand, right? It's not about you sitting
Right.
down and then like an hour later you're like, I'm healed. It's
Yeah. No. There is work. There is
yeah.
work, and um, yeah. No, that intuition, you got to follow it though. Whether you as the facilitator or you as the client or a
Yeah.
human just walking around the world, if you have intuition, you need to follow it. It's yours. Period. Yours for a reason. Life is by divine appointment.
Yeah.
Like, show up.
And what's cool about that is everybody's got their own kind of dividing rod inside of them,
Mhm,
which is their,
mhm,
their BS meter, their whatever you want to call it, the gut, the intuitive
mhm,
voice, um, and it's really if we were to grab a page out of NLP, neuro linguistic programming, it's about our own IR, our internal representation of what we've seen, felt, and heard over the years that has kind of added to those collective known associations on how we think and feel about things.
mhm.
But again, there's hope.
It's always hope.
If it was learned, can be unlearned and relearned and newly learned.
Absolutely. There's always hope. There's
Yeah.
always, hey, it's anything can change, right? Anything can change it.
You have to want to.
10%.
Kind of starts there, doesn't it?
Gotta
Yeah.
gotta start there, right? So yeah, you gotta want to start, you gotta want to change it, gotta have hope, gotta stay positive. Yeah, that's what I think.
Hey, I'm going to do something that we haven't talked about offline, nor
Okay.
in any of the episodes we've recorded. But if so, if you follow us on YouTube, if you go to the channel that the podcast is attached to, Our Subconscious Speaks, you can just go search in there. It'll come up. There's only one of us. Um, there's contact information in there. Tina's website is in there. My website is in there. We have an email that we share that's in there. So if you're interested in kind of talking to either one of us about getting
Mhm.
some help that we're saying that we're here to offer, you're more than welcome to contact us.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yeah,
That's what we
yeah.
do.
I
Here to
just felt
serve.
like it was fine. It was time to like say something about how to get in touch with us.
Oh,
Because I
that's a
know
good
everybody else
idea.
like pounds that message in the beginning and the end, but
Right.
um
I
yeah,
well, I think we're a little different. I
we
mean,
are.
we're trying to stay in the lane, but we are a little different. Um, and that's okay. You know, that's who we are.
Yeah. All right. So do you wanna I'm like really I know pride's such a an interesting word. Like I'm really grateful is a better word for the experience that I shared just very briefly about that panic attack client. And
Mm,
by the way, as you mentioned swim lane, right? I certainly when I hear these buzzwords of anxiety, panic, depression, I'm always making sure that I'm staying in my lane as a vocational and avocational self-help hypnotherapist, right? Because we're governed in the state that we live in, California, and I I always make sure that they're not clinically diagnosed with some sort of disorder out of an official manual called
oh, the DSM,
the
the
DSM
DSM-5.
current edition 5, I believe, right?
Hmm.
Diagnostic Systems Manual. This is all the disorders under the sun that a doctor or psychiatrist would um, classify you as your disorder if you came to
Yeah,
them for a very specific reason. So we've been taught how to kind of dig around in there to make sure that they're a
we're
good
within scope.
candidate for hypnotherapy. Say again?
Hmm. I said that we're within scope.
Yes, 100%.
Um,
Yeah,
Absolutely. Using referrals to their medical doctors when
that's right.
necessary.
Yeah.
Working in conjunction with them when necessary.
100%. Making
Yeah,
partners. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, no, the DSM-5. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that we have the access to all of that information. So
What was
anyway,
the word you used in one of the first couple of episodes? No, it wasn't integrity. It was a different word, but it was
moral
along the
compass,
lines, huh? Moral
moral
compass.
compass.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's that moral compass of like that goes kind of coincides with the trusting of the intuitive mind, the gut around if
Hmm.
you're the right fit. But then there's also beyond the kind of like there's just something off with this one. Like I'm probably not the best one for them, but hey, I can refer
Hmm.
you out. There's also this moral compass part, which is like, we don't just say yes to everybody and sign them up. That's not what this
No,
is at all, right?
no,
We're very
no.
ethical and um, morals, right? We stay in our
Yeah,
lane and we're trained how to figure out what lane they might need to be in conjunction with our lane. We kind of create a care team around their.
absolutely.
I think I mentioned my smoker before, right? Like he's seeing a multitude of other people
Hmm.
as well as me, but he was like 2 sessions, quit smoking, hasn't had a cigarette yet. So
Very, very nice.
yeah, yeah,
Congratulations. Yeah, I've worked with, multiple uh teams depending on who I was working with. One of my favorites would be um somebody that's on dialysis. I have actual clients that are on dialysis, and that process is long.
it's
Like,
horrible. My mom was on dialysis.
mhm, right.
It was horrible.
So, and they were just freaked out about it, and one in particular, the keeping the blood pressure down on the unhooking and the hooking and into the ports is, for a lot of people, really a problem area. And I was working with one of my clients, and keeping their blood pressure so stable that after weeks of it being so unstable, and then all of a sudden, they've got the headphones in and they're listening, and I did an audio for them that would be the length of their dialysis.
Nice.
And yeah, and literally the doctor looks at them and is like, what just happened? What happened?
Mm,
You were just, you're 120 over 80 the whole way. Like, didn't
wow.
change, nothing. So it was literally that long of an audio for them. And they listen to it every single time. They're there for 3 hours, I think, what it is. But they would, do other things in the beginning. They were okay. And then there would be that quiet time and they would know. It's
Mm,
like the last hour. So I would do an hour long audio thing that they could listen
that's
to.
so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And that was pretty profound to get that thank you. Like, I did it today without freaking out, without having the freak out of my blood pressure up too high,
Hmm.
or blood squirting everywhere, whatever their fears were. Um, they were thrilled. They were absolutely thrilled. And then the doctor was like, whatever you're doing, you need to keep doing just that. And I told him, I was listening, just to this meditation and slash hypnosis, because it was really long. Um, and the doctor was like, just keep doing that. And there was so much great progress for so long, you know for the bulk of the time that I was working with them, um, that the doctors just were thrilled. Absolutely, this is a part of it. That's part of your team. So yeah,
So cool.
yeah. So
I love
hypnosis works
you.
even
You're
for
awesome.
that. Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. But those are the things that hypnosis works for. And yes, that's a long
And
audio, by the way.
yes, it is an
That's a
hour
really,
full.
yes,
Yeah.
an
That's
hour full.
awesome. So
Yeah.
cool.
They were in some other dreamland, like, and I took everything that they told me they loved and they liked, and,
Right.
and it, you know, and I just built it in, and it just kept going. And they were so thrilled that they would leave there literally singing. So they sing. So that's always great.
So
That's my
impressive.
favorite. That's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
it just warms the heart, you know. You talk about the benefits, right? Um,
Hmm.
does it work? Sure
Hmm.
sounds like it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
Yes.
mean,
We go.
I've had a couple of clients that use that buzzword panic attacks. Like my first
Yeah.
client ever. I'm coming up on my anniversary of my first paying client this
Uh-huh.
week, and I love this guy, married with three young children, and uh, wasn't diagnosed, but certainly was using that word panic attack, having like waking up in the middle of the night, telling his wife to call 911 because he thought he was dying. That bad,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And I forget if he didn't get diagnosed because he didn't want to be on drugs, or like there's a lot of like personal stuff in there that I
Right.
don't need to dig into, but yeah, that guy's life changed.
Hmm.
Like
So,
to
so
go
it works.
from 4 or 5 a week down to none is like unbelievable. It's unbelievable to even say that, right?
Right.
I've never even gotten, I think the closest I've ever gotten to what could be considered a panic attack is when I was at, not the bowl for the concert, but I was there for a national championship game with my dad, brother, and sister. And there were so many people, and the energy was so, I was losing it to the point that I was
Mm.
running for the parking lot to get away from the stadium. It was so horrible. And I
Wow.
couldn't imagine that happening every night or every day. Like
Yeah, no.
oof,
So it does work. That,
gosh,
when somebody says, does it work? Yeah,
yeah.
it works. It definitely works. Yeah, I mean, there's
And
somebody that makes it through dialysis because
I
of it.
believe, yeah, that dialysis story hits me hard because I watched my mom slowly die on dialysis,
Hmm.
and it was
He was
so
one of my
painful.
first clients, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. So
Yeah.
cool.
It was terrible. I was a little afraid, but I was like, I'm up for it. So, just because I wanted to do such a good job, I just started, digging in what, renal failure and what that
Yeah.
process was.
Yeah.
So I was completely prepared. And just, how long is that process exactly? Because I'm already thinking how long it's going to, how long am I
Yeah.
going to put this together for them? So, but yes, one of my
You
most
just
favorite.
inspired me to, I can't believe that this was a pro bono client that came to me when I was at HMI, and he had had a brain aneurysm from a drug overdose and had lost, like, I think I don't have my notes in front of me and I didn't prepare this. You just inspired me to talk about it. This young man, I believe he was at 20/80 eyesight, like couldn't read like anything
Yeah.
up close, nothing, right? And had to get a referral approved and signed by his
Right.
neurologist, which I
Right.
was so proud of that.
Ooh.
Like I'm a student working pro bono with this guy, and like his neurologist signed off on him using hypnosis as an aid to help.
Yes. Yes.
And that kid's vision went back to 20/40. I
Fair.
mean, I worked with him for several months.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and so it's not magically back to 2020 or anything, but like it's about the be able to get into a state of relaxation where you're not stressed about trying to do the thing that you're trying to do that causes you stress, which is just to
Yeah.
read. Like a general, like he went on to like start trading stocks, and like this kid was such a wonderful success story. I'm like a big fan of his, man. I
Yeah.
actually reached out to him several months ago just to say hey, and things
Hmm.
are still going well for him. And it's
That's
just,
wonderful.
yeah, thanks for reminding me of him. That was
Hmm.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful when you have, you know, when you have those moments where there is a difference, and then you think back, yeah, it there's not a doubt in my mind that it works. There's not a doubt in my mind that it will change your life. Um, because I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. It's not just some story that somebody told me. Um, you can see it. It makes a difference. You just got to do your part as the client. Your 10%.
That 10% matters, man.
It's a big one. It's a big
Yeah.
one, and yeah, those are the things that are important.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else on your mind for today?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that it
Um,
just feels like maybe this is where we're gonna end for today. I mean,
yeah,
you know, we have been known to talk for hours on end, but you know, we want to be respectful of your time. Feel free to, you know, pause and come back if you want. It's not like we're doing some guided imagery with you. Although, if somebody's
it could
interested in
happen.
that, feel free to comment and say yes, please. Maybe we'll do one of
Yeah,
those. But
absolutely.
yeah, it's my great honor and privilege to sit in this Zoom room with you
Hmm.
and talk about
Okay.
the thing that touches both of our hearts.
Absolutely. It changes lives.
Yeah.
It changed my life. Um, you know, I'm pretty stubborn, so
Uh, you had mentioned like something about a teaser for is there like anything you want to throw out there for like what we might go on to next, or like do you want to just kind of let this sit and then we'll kind of make an announcement on our socials. Oh, by the way,
yeah,
I'll do a little social plug.
yeah.
Our executive VP, our producer, uh, Drew Orlando, hate
It's
the
pretty
association there, is
pretty.
pretty amazing guy, and he has successfully. You can follow us on TikTok, Our Subconscious Speaks. You can follow us on Instagram, Our Subconscious Speaks. We do have a Twitter account. It's getting a little hard to manage all these accounts, but
There's
if you
lots
want
of
to get in
them.
touch with us, go to the YouTube channel. It's got all the contact information. Go to our
Yeah.
socials. We're both on those. Those are our accounts because we are our. We're a team. I call Tina my
Yes,
hypno partner, which I think
absolutely.
I love that it confuses some people. Like
What exactly is a hypno partner? That's the
Tina,
look.
that's who.
That's it. Yeah, hypno partner.
It's just
I mean,
it's Tina, Orlando, and Dawn. That's no big deal.
that's who it is. That's who it
Uh,
is.
all right. So any teasers?
No, I think we'll just post something and let's,
Yeah, I like
I
that.
think that was, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
I
post
like that.
something and let you know what's coming. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
So you have to like follow,
Yes.
share, comment,
Yes,
come
please.
find us, Instagram, TikTok.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, because it's streaming, we're working on Apple. Apple has turned out to be the hardest streaming service to get going on. So we're working on that. But
We'll get there.
we are on what's the
Spotify.
Spotify. Yes, and we're on YouTube, obviously, but so you can check us out there. Make sure you like, follow, hit the little bell so you get the announcement when we do
Hit the
drop.
heart, hit the bell, hit the
Yeah, that's right.
hit it
Hit the
all.
heart.
Hit the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
And the
right,
bell and this and that. And we're here, right?
we're here. That's
We're
right.
here.
Yeah.
Present.
And, you know, collectively, our subconscious speaks. Are you listening? Is the question.
I was gonna say
Ah, all right.
it.
Okay. I think that's it for today.
All right, my friend.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Don. I'll see
Bye,
you
all.
later.